Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat of California no less, this week has stated she referred a matter involving Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh to federal investigative authorities, but declined to provide further details on the information she received. In other words, they're not telling you anything, they're just redacting everything and stating that they're the most transparent people on the planet. According to this senator, I have received information from an individual concerning the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. The top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee stated that this individual strongly requests confidentiality, declined to come forward or press the matter further, and I have honored that decision. I have, however, referred the matter to federal investigative authorities. Senator Feinstein's statement conveniently follows a report published by The Intercept this week describing a letter the California senator was given by Representative Anna Eshoo, a Democrat also of California, of course. Eshoo received the letter from a person affiliated with Stanford University, which describes a matter relayed to that person, according to The Intercept. The letter reportedly details an incident involving Kavanaugh and a woman that dates back to their high school days. Sources told the New York Times the letter includes a sexual misconduct allegation. Well, until they're transparent and show everyone on this planet that letter, then it's just hearsay. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, is aware of Feinstein's referral. At this time, he has not seen the letter in question and is respecting the request for confidentiality. There's no plan to change the committee's consideration of Judge Kavanaugh's nomination. Later today, White House spokesman Kerry Kupek noted that Kavanaugh participated in 65 meetings with senators, including Feinstein, who sat through more than 24 hours of testimony and answered more than 2,000 questions, both in public and in private. Not until the eve of his confirmation has Senator Feinstein or anyone raised the specter of new information about him. According to Kupek's statement, White House Representative Kupek also stated that she also said over the course of his 25-year career in public service, Kavanaugh has been vetted by the FBI for some of the most highly sensitive roles. Kavanaugh worked in the Office of Independent Counsel for Kenneth Starr during the Clinton administration and the White House in the White House's counsel office and as staff secretary for President George W. Bush. He has also been a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit since 2006. Senator Schumer promised to oppose Judge Kavanaugh's nomination with everything he has, and it appears he is delivering with this 11th hour attempt to delay the confirmation. Of course, Kavanaugh was nominated to fill Justice Anthony Kennedy's vacancy on the Supreme Court, which of course brings us to another little dirty trick that this channel, Screen Hoopla, has been stating for months about what really happened when Hillary Rodham Clinton did not become President of the United States. With the Honorable Anton Scalia passing away conveniently in February of 2016, Hillary Clinton was probably going to be able to choose 2 or 3 Supreme Court justices, obviously in her first term as president. That's not happening now, so guess what? They are pulling back everything that they can, and now we have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is 80 plus years old. She shouldn't even be there anymore, ladies and gentlemen, because once you see this next video, you're going to understand why.
No senator asked me any question about that. It was the same for Justice Breyer, who was nominated a year later. He had in the 90s the numbers.
Townhall.com and a Fox News contributor, and John Summers, former communications director for Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and now a Democratic strategist. So as John Cornyn said, let's get this straight. So there is this letter that surfaces, literally at the 11th hour. The vote is now scheduled for September 20th on Judge Kavanaugh. The members of the Senate Judiciary Committee have had hours and hours to question, to bring up things that were on their minds. This letter, according to these reports, was in the hands of Senator Feinstein since July, according to some of these reports, and she didn't mention it, didn't ask him about it at the hearing. John, let me ask you, how does this ring for you, this whole story?
I don't think there's any denying that this is unusual. All I can say is I've worked with Senator Feinstein before. I think she's one of those members who does her best to represent her district and she takes her job very seriously, and I think tries to do the very best she can with that job. She's not one of those that's typically bombastic or pulls stunts. So I hope that's not the case in this one. But it's hard to disagree with the fact that it is unusual. So it'll be interesting to see, what that letter actually contains and why she thought it was important enough to share with the FBI.
Guy, what do you see happening here?
Well, I smell something and it reeks, Martha. I mean, you look at the timing of this. After the confirmation hearings, Senator Feinstein reportedly had this information for almost 2 months, and only now does she send it over to the FBI, who, by the way, according to the Washington Post today, are not planning on launching an investigation into this matter, whatever it is, because it's just all innuendo and anonymous speculation at this point. And it just happens to leak out the existence of this letter that has something maybe to do with sexual misconduct, whatever that might mean, in the 1980s when Judge Kavanaugh was in high school. Just the timing of it, the surrounding facts of this case, to me, it spells out a desperate last-minute attempt to derail a nomination that the Democrats have been unable to derail on the merits.
This is my 9th hearing, and I think we've got to look at this. These are very unique circumstances. Not only is the country deeply divided politically, we also find ourselves with a president who faces his own serious problems. Over a dozen cabinet members and senior aides to President Trump have resigned, been fired, or failed their confirmations under clouds of corruption, scandal, and suspicion. The president's personal lawyer, campaign manager, deputy campaign manager, and several campaign advisors have been entangled by indictments, guilty pleas, and criminal convictions. So it's this backdrop that this nominee comes into when what we're looking at is he within the mainstream of American legal opinion, and will he do the right thing by the Constitution? We are also experiencing the vetting process that has cast aside tradition in favor of speed. When Justice Scalia died, Republicans refused to even a meeting in their office with President Obama's nominee, and held the seat open for 1 year. Now, with a Republican in the White House, they've changed their position. The majority rushed into this hearing and is refusing to even look at the nominee's full record. In fact, 93% of the records from Kavanaugh's tenure in the White House as counsel and staff secretary have not been provided to the Senate, and 96% has not been given to the public. We do know what the White House thinks of this nominee. Don McGahn, the White House counsel, spoke to the Federalist Society and made clear Brett Kavanaugh is exactly the kind of nominee the president wanted. In his speech, Mr. McGahn discussed President Trump's 2 lists of potential Supreme Court nominees. One, he said, was filled with mainstream candidates. The other list included candidates that are kind of too hot for prime time, the kind that really would be really hot in the Senate. Probably people who have written a lot. We really get a sense of their views, the kind of people that make people nervous. That's a quote. Now, what I'm saying, this is the backdrop into which we come into this situation. So yes, there is frustration on this side. We know what happened with the prior nominee, the last one President Obama presented to us. He never even got a meeting. He never got a hearing. He never got a vote. And now the rush to judgment and the inability to really have a civil and positive process ends up being the result. I really regret this, but I think you have to understand the frustration on this side of the aisle. Everyone on this side of the aisle wants to do a good job. They want time to be able to consider what the findings are. And there are tens of thousands of pages of emails and other items which could constitute findings on a whole host of major subjects that this nominee may be faced with. And they're serious. The torture issues, all of the Enron issues that he's been through, all of the kinds of things that we want to ask questions about. So, I mean, understand where we're coming from. It's not to create a disruption. It's not to make this a very bad process. It is to say, majority, give us the time to do our work so that we can have a positive and comprehensive hearing on the man who may well be the deciding vote for many of America's futures.